Joining me now is Twyla Brace with RefuseRealID.org. We had her on about a month or so ago. And since then, Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security, has come out and said, hey, you're going to have to get your real ID or you can't get on a plane come May 7th. Wait a minute. That's not consistent with what Twyla was telling us. So we wanted to get her back on. And I'm going to play a clip from Kristi Noem, but see what she's saying, because that's not what we were being told a month ago. And I'm not for this real ID. I think it's going to lead to a national ID card, digital ID. And we know the World Economic Forum, they said in 2018 in one of their documents, they want us all to have that to be able to vote, travel, get on social media, do banking. And I want to ask Twyla about voting. Is this because some so-called Republicans are pushing this as a way to deal with voter fraud? Let's talk about that tonight with Twyla. Twyla, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, it's always great to be here. Thank you.
What do you make of the latest announcement by Kristi Noem? Because it doesn't seem to be consistent with what you were telling us a month ago. And frankly, I trust you. And I'm not sure I trust what she's putting out.
Well, the problem is that she, here she is at the highest echelon of our government, and she is using fear-mongering to try to compel the public to do what she wants the public to do, which is she wants everybody to submit to Real ID and do it as soon as possible. So she's actually making use of panic in an attempt to get the public to do what she wants the public to do. I mean, the fact of the matter is there's a regulation that came out in January. It's the progressive enforcement rule. It's 2 years of enforcement. And when we heard what she said on Friday, April 11th, we did a brand new document. And you can find it at refuserealid.org. And that document is, yes, you can fly. Because she said, if you arrive at the airport on May 7th without a real ID, you probably won't be able to fly. And that is not at all what her own rules say. That's not what the regulations say. That's not what her department says. A rule is a very official thing, right? And it's out there. It was published in January, and it says that if they require the real ID on May 7th, just like for everybody, there's 44% of the American public that don't have one. But if they require it for everybody on that day, there's going to be disruption, there's going to be mayhem, there's going to be public backlash against the security agents. That's what the rule is saying. And so that's why they said that they gave flexibility. That's why they said they delayed it and gave 2 years for this to happen. And so now, she comes out publicly and says, basically, you can't fly on May 7th if you don't have a real ID. And, what is she doing? Why is she lying to the American public? I don't know. But I think it's because she wants everybody to bow, everybody to bend, and everybody to submit. And she wants them afraid so that they will do that.
So you're saying there is a 2-year enforcement period, not a deadline of May 7th.
So what the rule says is that the majority of federal agencies, about 95% of them, are probably going to stick with the May 7th. But most of those are places where hardly any of the public ever goes, like going to the Department of Homeland Security itself, or going to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Most Americans don't do that. You have to have a meeting with somebody, and that's rare. But going to the airport, as they said, is a high frequency or high level travel area, right, with lots of people. And that's particularly why they gave the 2 years of enforcement, because they're very concerned about what would happen at the airport if they just put the hammer down on May 7th. So, if you go to refuserealid.org, we took a few comments. It's a 65-page rule, but we just took a few of the most revealing comments and put them in this document and showed how people will be able to fly. And no matter what, people still will be able to fly because they could use a passport. If they're a veteran, they can use a VA medical card. If they're in the military, they can use a card. But did she mention that? No, she just said if you come to the airport without a real ID, you aren't going to be able to fly. And so, it's just a bad, terrible thing coming at the highest level of our government to have her say that. And, I saw an interview with her on, I think it was Fox and Friends, and the Chiron, that strip at the bottom, it said something like real ID needed to fly on May 7th. And I thought, okay, but it's her tweeting it, and she's saying you can use your passport and other acceptable identification. And I thought, and I said this in a X post, right? I said, but did she say that on Fox and Friends? And I listened to the Fox and Friends, and unless it's a clipped account, she never said that, which is probably why Fox and Friends put on those words, you need a real ID on May 7th to fly. So here she is, sort of couching this, putting it in the tweet, right, in the X post, but not having actually said it on Fox and Friends. Now apparently there is something new out where she's actually mentioning passports, and so there's a lot of backlash on X regarding the fact that she said this, and a lot of people know that she was lying. I don't know why she would even do this.
Yeah, why would she do this? Let's go to one of the PSA she's made. Listen to this, folks.
Hi, I'm Christine Holm, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. If you plan on traveling, we need your help to prevent delays and to prove your identity. Get a real ID. Starting May 7th, you will need a real ID to travel by air or to visit federal buildings in the United States. These IDs keep our country safe because they help prevent fraud and they enhance security. Please do your part to protect our country. Go today and don't delay. To learn more, go to dhs.gov/real-ID. Thank you.
All right. Well, do you think she knows she's putting out misinformation?
Well, she better. She's the head of the department, and the thing is that a national ID does not protect our country. A national ID, is against our constitutional rights. It's against states' rights. It does not protect our country. Our country is not just a landmass. Our country is a concept. It's an experiment in freedom that there's been nothing like it in the entire history of man, to our knowledge, right? And so protecting the country means protecting freedom. It doesn't mean protecting the borders against intruders, if that's what she's saying. And other people like Congressman Massey, he says that would never have protected us against those who flew into, the World Trade Center because they had different kinds of passports. So, there's a lot of false words going on. And while it is probably true that at federal agencies, most will require it on the 7th, unless she plans to go and have the TSA go against their own regulation, you will be able to fly on the 7th. There's actually a part in there that talks about 2 years of conformance and nonconformance. 2 years of nonconformance. So there's some anticipation at the Department of Homeland Security in their own rule that there will be 2 years of nonconformance. And so again, I would just like to encourage people to do several things. Go to refuserealid.org, get educated, educate everybody that you know. Let them know that the Real ID is not just a state ID, it is a national ID. It is unconstitutional. This whole act should be stopped. They should ask their state legislators. So we were testifying in the state of Maine. And again, for this bill that would repeal Real ID in the state of Maine. And every state legislature should have a bill like this, because if the states stand up like they are commanded to do in their own oath against an overreaching federal government, then we can stop what Secretary Noem and others are trying to do by imposing a national ID on all of us.
Absolutely. What do you make of some that are out there saying that this is going to be a way to fight voter fraud? I think that's a great way to try to convince conservatives, people concerned about those issues, maybe even some Democrats who are concerned about voter fraud, to go get one. But how is that going to fight voter fraud?
So the important thing to understand about voting is it's always been a purview of the states. And it should still be a purview of the states. The federal government, by the Constitution, is not allowed to interfere in the voting purview of the states. And so states can do this through a state identification card and their own laws. You know, the fact that California and Minnesota are and maybe other states are letting illegals get, IDs, are letting illegals vote. That is not something that the Real ID is going to stop. And if we had a Harris administration, for example, you can just imagine that the possibility that the Harris administration would have decided to, even though, to let illegals have the Real ID and vote. This is something where you've got to have the states to protect against the federal government, to protect against one administration doing something against all of the states. It's got to be in the hands of the state government, voting and identification and the right to travel. And, all of that needs to be at the state level, not the federal level.
Mm-hmm. How will a Real ID be a step toward digital ID?
Oh, yes. Thanks for asking that question. So the DMVs in every state have an organization, a national organization called AMVA, the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators. And in December 5th, 2023, they testified to Congress of their plans to digitize the Real ID, put it on everybody's phone, and have remote access to it, which of course means then at any time that the government would decide that you did something wrong or there was some reason, they have the power to shut it down. If you have your ID in your pocket, well, that's one thing. But if you have your ID in your phone and they decide to shut it down, you don't have an ID anymore. You don't have any possibility to do anything that you need the ID for. So, if you wanted to go through the airport security, for example, and they decided, no, you can't fly, they just shut down your ID and there you are, stuck in the airport and have to go home or figure out another way home or, whatever. And so, digitized ID means outside control of your device, your identification, and then you got to fight the government, in order to get it back. We really believe that it would lead, well, maybe it wouldn't lead to, but it would certainly open the door to a Chinese-like social credit system. And, one of the things that we're doing, I'm sorry.
I was saying yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say one of the things that we're doing to try to get the word out, because if you look on X, you can see that people who have MAHA and MAGA are on X saying, everybody get with it, get your ID. What's the big deal? Okay, y'all don't understand what this means for your rights and for your freedom. And I know you love freedom. And so, getting out the word to the public is really important. So the documents that we have, like, yes, you can fly, or the document that says lose your Real ID, switch back to freedom, to help people know all the steps that they have to take, which really aren't that many steps, but at least to know how they can go and get a standard state driver's license again to stop the government's move towards a digital ID. But also we just started putting up billboards that are supported by donors. And so our first billboard went up just east of downtown Dallas, and the next one is going up in Kentucky. So we're trying to get people to put up billboards in their area. We've got the billboard. It's a great billboard, and we're more than happy to help spread the news in their neck of the woods, wherever it is.
Excellent. Excellent. Thomas Massie, he's asking President Trump to put a halt to all this, correct?
That's correct. I don't know what
do you think?
I think there might be some problems with his relationship with Trump. I recall that there was some major disagreement. It might have been having to do with finance or the debt ceiling or something like that. So I don't know what the success is, but it's a wonderful thing. It is a wonderful thing for Massie to come out against the Real ID, and more members of Congress need to do it as well. We would love to have Senator Rand Paul come out against the Real ID, and he is the chair of the Homeland Security Committee. So as chair of the Homeland Security Committee, he could do a lot to stop Real ID in its tracks if he chooses to.
Well, his dad, there's a famous speech of his dad on the floor warning about this many years ago, right?
That's correct. And Ron Paul just did, I don't know, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, on the 14th of April, Ron Paul did his own broadcast, his own podcast about the Real ID and the dangers of the Real ID.
Yeah, in fact, here he is. This is, several decades ago. Listen to what Ron Paul, this would be the father of Rand Paul, had to say many decades ago. Here we go, on the floor of the House.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the rule. I rise also in support of the Sessions Amendment, but I also would like to take this time to make a few comments about why I will be voting against the bill. With the utmost sincerity and the deep conviction, I am quite confident that this bill, if you vote for it, you will be voting for a national ID card. And I know some will argue against that, and they say this is voluntary, but it really can't be voluntary. If a state opts out, nobody's going to accept their driver's license. So this is not voluntary. Matter of fact, even the House Republican Conference, who sent a statement around and some points about this bill, said the federal government should set standards for the issuance of birth certificates and sources of identification such as driver's licenses. This is nationalization of all identification. It will be the introduction of the notion that we will be carrying our papers. Matter of fact, I think it might even be a little bit worse than just carrying our papers and showing our papers, because in this bill there are no limitations of the information that may be placed on this identification card. There are minimum standards but no maximum limitations, and the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security can add anything it wants. So if they would like to put on there the fact that you belong to a pro-gun group, it may well appear on your national ID card, because there may be an administration someday that might like to have that information. But there's no limitations as far as biometrics. There's no limitations as far as radio frequency identification. That technology is already available and being used on our passports, which means that you don't have to show your papers. All you have to do is walk by somebody that has a radio frequency ability to read your passport or read your driver's license. And there's no limitation as to what they can put on these documents. And this bill also allows the definition of terrorism to be redefined. There is no limitations. And, in many ways, I understand how well-intentioned this is, but to me it's sort of like the gun issue. Conservatives always know that you don't register guns. That is just terrible, because the criminals won't register their guns. But what are we doing with this bill? We're registering all the American people. And you want to register the criminals and the thugs and the terrorists. Well, why does a terrorist need a driver's license? They can just steal the car or steal an airplane or steal a bus or whatever they want to do. So you're registering all the American people because you're looking for a terrorist, and all the terrorists are going to do is avoid the law. But we, the American people, have to obey the law. If we don't, we go to prison. So I rise in strong objection to this bill, and I hope that there will be a few that will oppose H.R. 418. Thank you.
Time has expired.
Wow. Several decades ago, after 9/11, you got the Patriot Act, you get this attempt at this. A lot of what he said was going to happen is what you're warning about several decades later, right, Twyla?
That's correct. And in fact, the federal law is, as he says, there are minimum requirements, but no maximum. And that means that while today they are requiring a biometric scanning and capture of your facial geometry, they could in the future decide that they need your iris scan or your thumbprint or your palm print or even your DNA. There is no limit on that. There's also no limit on the documentation. So there are minimum requirements for documentation, but let's just say that the government decided they needed to have you document if you were in any gun rights group, if you, if you have a gun, have to, register all of this in order to get your real ID so that you can travel and have transactions around the country. So, he's absolutely correct. This is absolutely what it is. It is a national ID, and we must shut it down. There's really no option if we want to be free in this country other than shutting this down. And so it's very difficult to listen to conservatives on X talking about what they don't really understand. They're misinformed and they are unaware, and they do need to be made aware, and they need to make their neighbors aware of, what they can do and what they have actually in their pocket. If they've got a star, get rid of that ID. Go get yourself a standard driver's license. There are only 5 states that don't let you, although we're getting rumors of some other states who are saying, no, you can't. You can't make the exchange. And for those states, we're going to look into their regulations and see if the DMV is just violating their own regulations and laws, because according to Homeland Security, there are only 5 states that don't let you have a standard driver's license. And those are Texas, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, and Wyoming. And so we would love to hear from other people who try to make the switch and use our instructions. We've found out that other people have told us they're helpful. Some people have more trouble, and other people it's as easy as could be. They just are like, okay, yeah, we'll just switch it for you. Although, the DMV folks don't understand why, because the whole push right now is on getting a real ID. I just like to tell people, make sure you have a passport card. People are starting to hold the passport card in their bellfold. But ultimately, we intend to win. We intend to win this battle. We intend for states to say no to real ID. And yesterday, the Secretary of State in Maine said yes. You could forbid that we issue real IDs in Maine, but that won't stop the federal government from requiring them for travel. But the fact is, if a state, 2 states, 3 states decide that they are not going to issue real IDs, the federal government is not going to be able to maintain their requirement that you have to have a real ID to fly. They won't be able to, because this could easily be taken to court, and the states would say, hey, under the 10th Amendment, you don't get to tell us what to do here. We've decided we don't want to be part of this program, and we're not going to be. And so you have to stand down. And I think that's ultimately what would happen in the courtroom.
Let's pray that's the case. What is the website again? Stop Real ID Act? Or refuse RealIDAct.org.
I'm sorry. It's refuserealid.org.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. RefuseRealID.org. RefuseRealID.org. Let me show the website here. As you go there, the Citizens Council for Health Freedom, you'll find all kinds of information to deal with the misinformation that's, even as she has said, and I've seen it myself on X, being spread by so-called MAGA people, conservative people, make America healthy again. They're saying it's not a big deal, folks. Just go get it done and quit complaining. That's what I saw. So they're being misled. They need to get here to this website as well. Twyla, you've been on this for years. Thank you for your leadership and your education. Thank you for helping us be educated on this.
Well, thank you so much for, giving us a voice with your people. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. Twyla Brace checking in, Citizens Council for Health Freedom. Check out our website. Spread it all over the place, folks. Put it all over social media so we can get people up to speed so they quit putting out misinformation, even good people putting out misinformation, and we need to stop them from doing that, right? So thank you to her. Check out the website one more time. There it is, folks. Take a look at it. It's all there, right there. Go check it out. All right, now before we go to Aaron, I want to point you back here to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Water, water, water. It's so important. And no wonder the new study came out today I was being talked about by RFK Jr. Test on blood shows 80% of Americans have toxins in their blood. Well, what's in your water? What's in your water? What's in your food, right? You need one of these purifiers. I have one under my sink. Again, we don't promote products we don't use ourselves. We use this. I have this under my kitchen sink to get my water. And frankly, I'm not happy about having to sometimes travel because I don't have this filter. But, you know, life goes on. But regularly, I don't want to be drinking it. So I have this filter under my sink at home. That's the water we drink. We make our coffee from. That's the water Dolly drinks. All my pets drink. It is not only filtering out the chemicals, the poisons, the toxins. It's infused with oxygen and with other great things as well. Magnesium. You'll find out about all of it at worldviewwater.net, worldviewwater.net. Look at all those chemicals that it takes out. This is a legitimate system. It's a major system, a major company. Again, check it out, worldviewwater.net, worldviewwater.net. You'll also find the banner for it at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Okay. Speaking of sponsors, please consider going to worldviewfoundation.com and making a contribution of any size, folks. It's only through your support that we're able to do events like we did last night, helping to educate and encourage and equip people, put out this show each and every night. The player front and center, free of charge, not behind a paywall. Everybody can watch, putting the show up the next day on demand to watch again, free. $8,000, around $8,000 a month in bandwidth and storage bills of these files to give you free programming, not to mention all the free apps, all right? So please support us now. Would you go to worldviewfoundation.com and make a contribution? Our mailing address is there as well if you prefer to support us through the mail. worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you for that. Should we make the big announcement, Logan?
Yeah.
Should we make the big announcement? We've been working on something. Logan and I have been working on something for the last, what would you say, 2 months, Logan? 2 months? All the plans are in place for us to go to Washington, D.C. the first week of May, and broadcast from our nation's capital. We have all the passes, the press passes to film on Capitol Hill on the House side one day. And then in the morning and that afternoon, we'll be on the Senate side. We have members of the House who have confirmed to do interviews with us. We have members of the Senate to do interviews with us. We're going to be going to some other places that are like, one of the places we're going to go is the Anti-Communist Museum. Do you guys know there's an Anti-Communist Museum? I didn't know that. Tamara Scott, my broadcast partner, Tamara Scott, is the one that told me about the Anti-Communist Museum. Called them up and they're so gracious. And so we're going to go there and learn more about communism. It's going to be a great opportunity to do a lot of filming, bring you some great stuff. Okay? So again, when you help our foundation and you use some of our great products, helps us to go and fund doing things like this to bring you cutting edge interviews. And so we're going to the nation's capital. We also have been in communication with key people inside the White House. So we're working on some things related to that. We're going to be doing a lot. We're going to be doing a lot in DC and filming a lot and sharing a lot with you. But I'll tell you something else we're going to do. We're going to be doing some behind the scenes, okay? So as we take the motor coach out to the nation's capital and we do some special things along the way, and while we're there, we're going to be broadcasting some of it live on the Vault. So if you're a Vault member, we're going to take you along. That means you get on board the motor coach with the fam and 3 dogs and Michael Nini, our camera guy, and our bus driver, and you get to experience life on the road with us, not only traveling there, but then also while we're there. So we're going to do some behind the scenes stuff for Vault members, always trying to do a little extra for Vault members, because that's another big part of our general operating budget is our Vault. And pretty quick here. All the presentations from last night will be in the vault for you to watch. worldviewtube.com/vault. worldviewtube.com/vault. Let me take you there. You can join for as little as $7.99 a month. Oh, that's the year plan. As little as $7.99 a month. The 6-month plan is $8.99, or month to month $9.99. Pretty reasonable, right? And you're getting access to 35 years of my radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, documentaries, and more. It's all in there, folks. All of these shows that are just timeless, and the books that I've written, they're also timeless as well. The page is loading a little slow here in our hotel, but they're all there, and you can check all this out. But you also not only get all these great programs from years gone by, they're still very, very, very relevant, but you also get the live stream events like we did last night. You're also going to get to live stream some behind the scenes stuff as we travel on the motor coach to DC and as we tour DC. We'll be doing a lot of stuff. Some of it will be live. Some of it will tape it up and just say, hey, roll the tape. Let's let the folks on the vault see this. And then Logan will load it pretty quick to the vault. So some of this stuff will be live. Some of it will just be a matter of a few minutes old by the time it's loaded. But you're going to get a sneak peek behind the scenes of what it's like to travel on a motor coach with your family and your camera guy as well, Michael Nini, and the 3 dogs and bus driver. So anyway, I think you guys are going to love it. I hope you're going to enjoy it. I think it'll be fun, don't you, Logan?
Yeah.
And so another benefit to the vault. We've been working on this for well over 2 months, and we're going to bring you some special programming. All of you will get to watch some of the programming. The behind the scenes stuff will be for the vault members, but we're going to be bringing a lot of special programming to you guys. The Lincoln Memorial, Jefferson Memorial. We're working with the Park Service, the National Park Service, to get all the permits. See, that's the thing. Some things you don't need permits for. Other things, when you show up with tripods and 2 or 3 camera guys, you start needing filming permits. So I've been working early in the morning, Central Time, calling out to the East Coast to get all the filming permits. And of course, we had to work and get the press passes to go into the U.S. Capitol and film. And it's been a lot of work the last few months to do this, to bring you great programming. So folks, we work hard here. Lesser people would be off the air today after last night, getting in at 1:07, going to bed much later after that. By the time you unpacked, it was a full day. Yesterday, from the time we left the hotel here in Northern Illinois, went over to Milwaukee, about 90 minutes away, and came back, it was an 18-hour day. From the time we left to the time we got back was 18 hours. But all together, it was more than that, because we had to pack up yesterday. Then when we got back here, we had to unpack a lot of stuff. So yesterday was a crazy day. And I'm not bragging, but I'm saying most people would be off the air tonight, wouldn't they, Logan?
Yep.
I think they would. We're pretty tired, but we're also encouraged by what happened last night. It is amazing. So thank you to all of you who were there. But folks, we're working hard. And we're working hard behind the scenes, setting up interviews, getting press passes. Like I said, we've been in touch with some of the folks at the White House. So I'm not going to divulge too much about that, but I think you'll find some of that interesting and what we're going to be doing. So if you want to be a part of it, some of the behind the scenes stuff will be for Vault members, worldviewtube.com/vault. But a lot of it is going to be put out front and center for all of you. Okay. But I got to tell you, it is not cheap. Okay. It's not going to be inexpensive to take the motor coach, go to DC, be there for about a week. And again, the lodging and all the costs that go with bringing our crew with us. So we have to have the funds to do special projects and things to bring you. And if you appreciate that, the way you can support us, 2 ways. Go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors and use some of those products. Get a subscription of Bella Grace. Get a subscription of Gatatana. Get a subscription of Numi. Okay? worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Another way you can support us, worldviewfoundation.com, helping us push out free educational and ministry programming, Christian worldview news and information. worldviewfoundation.com. Okay? So you can help out with some of the budgets to bring you these free educational programs from our nation's capital, worldviewfoundation.com. And then, of course, worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault.